Welcome to the Monkey Do podcast, where you can show off your writing successes and we can all see what we can do to be like you. Today we have Steph. I didn't ask you before we hopped on. Steph, Stephanie, which do you prefer?
Either. And actually I was actually named after Stevie Nicks, so my mom calls me Stevie. So I answered all of it.
All right. So tell me a little bit about yourself. What are you about?
So I am a learning designer. I currently work with entrepreneurs to help them launch courses and membership sites so that they can bring a little more freedom into their businesses and scale. I currently also work at Stanford, where I help lecturers and faculty create courses that are super value focused, and I really enjoy it. I'm kind of like a combination of an entrepreneur and a teacher, and I'm just loving it.
Oh, I so relate to that description of being an entrepreneur and a teacher. For sure. Both my husband and I, Civilized Animal Productions is all about education. So thank you so much for being on the show today. Tell me about this email that we're going to share.
Okay, so this is an email that I created in helping other people launch their courses. One of the main things that we talk about is running a beta, which is where you test your curriculum. You don't ever want to launch without getting your curriculum in front of somebody else and getting that feedback from them about what's working and what's not. So this email I wrote to invite people into my beta when I was testing my curriculum, but also my students use it to be able to invite people into theirs.
So tell me a little bit about when you used this email. What was your goal? I see here I'm looking for 10 rockstar service-based entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the heart of your goal? How would you express your goal in sending this email out?
So at first, it was just an informational email that I was sending to people I had already talked to about my beta. But then it kind of turned into something that they always say that your best network is your network's network, right? And so I thought it would be interesting to kind of try out something that I could send to my network and they could pass on to people that they thought would fit my program well. So it really turned into something that kind of was a self-explanatory introduction to what my course was about.
Okay, so you said this to people and invited them to forward it on to their people who were rockstar service-based entrepreneurs, like coaches and freelancers.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about how that went.
So looking at the numbers, it seems to have actually worked pretty well. I had sent it out to 11 people total, and then 3 of my friends in my network that were just specifically like coaches or ones that had larger networks that they would have more people that they would want to send it to. And I ended up converting 5 out of the 11 that I sent it out to. And what was really interesting is that out of my yeses out of this email, 3 of them were ones that I had never even spoken to. So it was a completely cold lead. They didn't, and actually two of the 3 I've never met. They'd never even heard of me. Didn't even know what I did. So that's really, really interesting. But, so that turned into just over a 45% conversion rate, if you want to look at it that way. But with the caveat that I don't actually know how many people it was forwarded to through my network. So that's kind of like a tentative 45%. So.
Yeah, ultimately percentages can help us look at numbers and establish whether we hit our goals or not. But ultimately, it's all about that end goal. So you found your people. You found people that were not your people who turned into your people.
Yeah.
So I'd say that is a great success. So here, walk me through this. I'm the one sharing the screen, so just direct me if I need to scroll and share more of this. But walk me through this sort of template that you've created.
So I'm kind of like a very system oriented person. And if I know the goal of each like section, so first I kind of brainstormed the things that I knew that I wanted to have. I know that connection is really big whenever you're not necessarily trying to sell someone something, but like when you're trying to relate to your audience, which you definitely have to do every time you want them to purchase anything from you. So I realized that for the people that I had already talked to and that I knew, one of the first things I did was connect back to like our conversation, or make sure that they knew that I knew who they were. Right, it's not just completely cold for those people. But let's go quickly. So first I had the introduction, and I think it's always really important to show excitement, that like you're not like, oh, this is my course, you want to join, but it's like, yay, hey, like I'm excited, let's go. And then the second was kind of like the outline of the course, and really clearly telling them like what they should expect and what they'll get when they're done with the course. I think setting the expectation is really important, and then how they'll do it, which is basically the structure. So these 3 B's, brainstorm, beta, and broadcast, are my 3 modules that I have within my course, or my 3 steps. So basically giving kind of like the skeleton of my course, the format. And then I feel like it's always really important to show social proof or value. And for me, I hadn't run this yet, so I didn't really have any examples of successes out of, I work with clients, but it's kind of in a different way. So I didn't really want to relate it like that. So I talked a little bit about, how big the e-learning industry is and what it's expected to grow to. Because I think a lot of people right now are thinking like, oh, courses, there's so many out there. But really, if you find the right niche and you find the people that really need what you're promising, then there's tons of space, and that kind of proves that. And then I talk about one of their fears is that they don't think that. Oh, if you go up really quickly, just
sorry.
No, I just talk about one of their fears is that they don't have anything valuable to teach. So I hit on that fear just a little bit. And then I anticipate one of their objections, and then I add in other details, so like the deadline to join and the pricing. And then it was kind of a long email, which is something maybe you can help me with. So I kind of like played off that and said, whew, oh man, that was a novel of an email, but I really wanted to give you all the information about my course. Which is definitely kind of like within my voice. I'm definitely like on the more informal side, but then give them the links and say, hey, hope to see you inside.
Perfect. Yeah. So then you have it again here in this document, as presented, and without your outline points. Yeah, this is great. And I called this a template because that's what we call it within our program. We share templates all the time. If you've been listening to the podcast, if you've been tuning in, you know that we talk about templates all the time. And so this is an example of a template. And as we saw, it worked. But one thing that you shared with me when we talked about bringing this to feature on the Monkey Do podcast is that there were some things that you didn't love about it. You mentioned one already, that it was long. Was there anything else that you feel like it could be better?
I think for me, I really tried to stay away from being too salesy. Because I know people don't like that. Like they love people love to buy things, but they hate to be sold to, right? So I think that's maybe one of the things that we can look at. But personally, I didn't really know any good or any great ways to like kind of transition it from like, oh, here's everything you get, to like, okay, here's the actual information about how to like pay me, basically.
Yeah.
I think maybe some hints on that, or what you think about that. I think that would be.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into this. One of the things that you emphasized that I want to re-emphasize, this is really important, is this customization. when you're sending an invitation like this, where you are looking for 10 people and you are literally sending it, you're putting you're putting their name in the subject line. You're not using some automation. You are putting their email in and sending it from your inbox. So you have this opportunity to completely customize it. I thought of you because, and you tell them. So that's one great way that you have done this. One way that you can turn this around and make it feel a lot less salesy, even just in the writing, whether the person reading it thinks it's salesy or not, we need to shift first our mindset and our perspective as we're writing this. And one way to do that is to picture that one person that you want to write it to. And I don't know if you did this when you were writing it, is thinking about that one ideal rock star service-based entrepreneur where you're like, I really hope they sign up. But that's how I like to start it, is to literally write this first email. Instead of saying hi name and writing it for my draft, I put in one of their names so that I remember I am writing this to this person. And with that, your goal through this email, like you said, is to bring in these people to your beta. So that, and you've got all of these internal goals of so that you can test your method and so that you can refine your method. And it's all about you. And that's where we need to shift, because we have certain motivations as business people, as entrepreneurs, where we want to test something. We want to, we have all of these internal goals for our business. We want to make money so that we can bring in more people and help more people. And they're not bad goals. Even selfish goals are not necessarily bad goals because they help other people in the process. The thing is, that's where you come across as salesy, if that focus overcomes things. And so when we're writing an email to somebody else, our goal can shift in our minds from I need 10 rockstar service-based entrepreneurs to this person needs what I can provide them. I want to transform 10 people's lives. I want them to give this I want them to be able to launch a profitable online course and create freedom in their business. And I thought of this person because of this. So I want to emphasize, you have some of this coming across, and it does come across. But keeping this in mind will help you to audit and edit this email. So when you're thinking of this one person, think, what do they really want to know about Course Launch Academy? What you want to share is your 3 Bs. They probably don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to be harsh.
No, good.
Both to you, Steph, but also to our listeners here. The thing is that people don't care about the method so much as what the method will do for them. So I'm going to emphasize this in one way. I love talking about the use of bold and bolded phrases. So I'm going to dive into this a little bit. Bold phrases are more effective when they're not used for emphasis, but when they're used to direct skimmers. So this is something that you're going to want to keep in mind for a long email like this, is people are going to see this massive text and go, do I actually want to read this? Their eye is going to bounce to things like links because they show up in blue or whatever underline, or so they're going to bounce to links, and they're going to bounce to bold or any headers, any kind of formatting. I don't know if you have one here, but if there's like a single sentence paragraph, you have it here at the end with your CTA. If you'd like updates about my live launch, be sure to drop your email. That's another thing that people are going to notice because it's standalone. Mm-hmm. So these sorts of things are what skimmers are going to read. So once you've created your content, if you go back to the bold, ask yourself, is this the message that I want to convey to someone who only skims this? So what I see here is a lot of things that you want to emphasize and less. So I'm going to go through and just read what ends up being highlighted. Course Launch Academy, work when you want method. First B is brainstorm. The second B is beta. The last B is broadcast. We've got a lot of numbers that kind of stand out. We've got 10 rock star in all caps. And then join the beta of Course Launch Academy. Please forward this email to anyone that you think is a total rock star. Email here, and then you sign off. So your bold is communicating what you want to communicate more so than what your reader is the most interested in. And so this is where you're getting that salesy feeling. It's not that the email itself is necessarily salesy or any individual phrase feels sleazy, but if you shift it around and edit this to focus more on your audience and what they care about and bolding those things and bolding the transformations, even just that simple tweak is going to make this feel a lot better to you.
Oh, that's so good. Sense? Yeah, no, that's so good. So I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. That's the kind of stuff that we talk about in our Thoroughbred Entrepreneur program. And to talk about our method, the story circuit method helps you to shift and think about things in this way. Because we're thinking about what we need. And it's a very human thing. But we want to make that shift to really be focused on helping other people. So I'm going to turn this back over to you and let you workshop this a little bit. This is kind of a unique podcast episode in this regard, but I love it. It's a nice little workshop. So what I want you to do is look at this email and highlight some places where you could shift and bold these phrases to swing to the other side of not being salesy and really focusing on the transformation and what you offer to people. So I'll scroll as needed. But what are some phrases that you could bold that would shift this?
Do you want me to actually pull it up? I could pull it up and edit it so you can see it.
Let's just go ahead and dive in. Since I've got it up on my screen, just highlight what you see on my screen and I'll scroll for you.
Okay. I think that probably we need to emphasize create freedom in their businesses, or like even launch profitable online courses and create freedom in their businesses. I think that is one of the biggest desires that I hear from people when they're wanting to create their courses. So I think that needs some emphasis, definitely. Like right off the bat. Using what you were saying about like what they want or what they don't really care about my structure. I would say, so I would definitely take that down and make it a lot shorter, and possibly only in like littler chunks. I totally get what you said about like having it longer chunks is like a lot. My whole thing was that I wanted to tell them, like, oh, don't worry about this, we'll figure that out, or don't worry about this, we'll figure that out. But I think maybe at this time they don't even really need to know that, right?
Yeah, I could see it going either way. I could see that being really short and punchy. So instead of these kind of almost bullet points of the first B, second B, third B, you could swap out this whole section and say, you know your audience better, but if they have wanted to create a course, but you know these things are holding them back, those are the kind of mindset shifts that you want to make through this email. So maybe you could have those three bullet points of, have you tried to create a course before? Did you run into this issue? We've got you covered. We will. And then you have like a transformation phrase. What do they want to be? And you can highlight that. Have you struggled with this? This is how we're going to overcome. Not this is how, but we are going to overcome that so that you can this. So that would be one way to approach it, and you could integrate those things.
I could see it being like, oh, do you feel like, and then like having like really short and like you said, punchy, like just those kind of like fears that we'll all address. And then at the end being like, well, we got you. Like, we don't worry about those things. And instead of like having them in sentences, like really just kind of pull out the main things that they, yeah. I'm interested to hear what you think about that, like that paragraph. According to Forbes, the e-learning is $100 billion industry right now and projected to balloon. Because I feel like that kind of like maybe grounds a little bit, but I'm not sure thinking about it if it's really needed.
Well, ultimately, you know your audience
Mhm.
better than I do. And so it's thinking, is this something that would be helpful to that person that you're putting in that first line, hi,
Yeah.
so and so. So think about them. But from a general perspective, or if this was a sales page that had a little bit broader of an audience or something like
Mhm.
that, these kinds of numbers can be really helpful. I know I like them. So if
Oh
I
yeah, me
was your
too.
person, um, and if this is going to be something, here's another thing. If this is going to be something that is in your course, if this is your style and your voice,
Mhm.
totally go for it, because you want to attract your people, the people that are going to resonate with you. So if you get all excited about this $100 billion industry right now, and these are the kinds of things you love to share, go for it,
Yeah.
because then you're going to attract the people who want to hear those things.
Mhm.
So there's a value in learning sales psychology and learning about hacks and tactics and things, so that you understand what kinds of things are potentially going through your buyer's mind and helping shift them. But ultimately, when it comes down to the nitty gritty of, am I going to hit send on this email, it's got to be you. It's always going to be more effective when it's from you connecting with your people than the most optimized, scripted swipe copy or swipe files or what have you. So the other thing about this is, these, like you said, these numbers are grounding. This is helping to back up, um, like you said, social proof, or to deal with those worries of, well, I see people talking about courses all the time, and why would I add mine to the mix? Um, it's growing.
Mhm.
It's growing in the next 3 years. So let's do this. Let's do this thing. So maybe something that could make it stronger is you drop these facts, these statistics,
Mhm.
and then you shift to, I fully believe that everyone has something in their genius zone that's super valuable to their community. You could connect the dots more, basically,
Mhm.
and that would strengthen it. Um, what do you want them to take away from these facts? State it. Don't assume that they're going to connect the dots. So you've said it's a growing industry. What you're thinking in your mind is, there's plenty of room to grow. There's plenty
But
of
I
room
don't
to
actually say that.
actually say it.
No. Okay. Yeah.
So make sure that you do actually say those things. Um, the other thing that I just want to say about this email and the structure of it is, like I said, we talk about templates all the time. We've got
Mhm.
templates in our program. And so the template that I would recommend for an a sales or networking email like this is the salvation system. Because, and we call it that because it's all about shifting someone from where they are to where they want to be. We want to save them out of this place where they're stuck and bring them up into this new land, this new wonderful place, where they can have what they've been searching for. And so the salvation method is what I would use here, and it's got 5 points. I think you've got similar number of points here, and yeah, so you've got 6 points. So we have these 5 points within this email, and the but because we're focusing on the salvation of this person, it helps to shift okay, how
Mhm.
can we bring what we have to this person and move them forward? So yeah, if you want to dive deeper, that's where I would go for sure. We're going to need to wrap up soon here. So I want to know from you. We've covered a lot of stuff in this
Mm.
podcast episode. What is it that what is your number one takeaway? What is something that you want our listeners and viewers to walk away with and remember?
Oh, I think it's that shift just to be focusing on what they need to hear, like, because I mean, I kind of teach the same thing, and you want to really understand what your students want, but really applying it on such like a detailed level all throughout this, I think it really helps with um the connection, because really it's all about that connection with them. um and like one of the things I say is that you really want them to know that you see them, you hear them, and you understand like their pains and their desires. um so I think that you really took it and added it to every single little paragraph and made that shift. I thought that was I think the main thing that I want to take away from this.
I absolutely agree. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. One way that I like to put it, real concise, is you got to talk about what they care about before they'll care about what you care about.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. So let's wrap this up. Where can people find you online?
So I am at stephwoods.co, or at stephwoods.co on Instagram. Those are my two, Instagram and my website. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Perfect. We'll include those links in the notes with this show. And thank you so much for coming on. This has been so much fun. I hope that you've been able to take away a lot. Um, it's been a great experience for me. So thank you again for being on, and we'll see you next time. Maybe we'll have you on again, and you can share the transformation that this email goes through after you
I'll
edit
bring
it.
back the new version. Yep.
Thank you.